Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the 157 show. Once again, my name is Jonathan, and if you've seen the last video, I had COVID issues, so we quarantined a little bit, and I finally got my buddy here back in the old studio, I guess you can call it. Austin,
Yep.
how you doing?
Good to be back. Took the week off for Jonathan.
I didn't mean to do that, but
The second episode was supposed to be about SEC Media Days, and that's what we're going to cover today. But because of the news with Texas and Oklahoma, we did have to.
we want to put out at least a video out on that because it was. I mean, it's some big news, between those two schools coming to SEC. But yeah, we're going to talk about SEC Media Days, and we'll touch a little bit on the NIL stuff. Some of the players had some NIL deals that have come up. Mainly, Bo Nix has one that was just announced today, and also the Bryce Young deal that Nick Saban hinted at. Last week or week before last, right before Media Days, he mentioned it. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and start about the SEC Media Days and what each coach talked about and said. And so, I guess we can start with Auburn. Brian Harsin, first time Media Days for him at SEC. So
yeah, it was interesting.
How did that go for him?
I took some notes on it, like we talked about previously, and there's a few things I want to talk about. Things I like with Harsin, and just talking about the education of his players. He touched on COVID, and then the tradition at Auburn. So things like that he touched on. With education, he was talking about that he mentions as football coaches, you're there to coach, and it's an opportunity to educate players and the decisions that they make. Yep. And he goes into also talks about the NIL, which we've kind of briefly touched on, and he wants to talk about the implications of NIL.
First off, implications on the NIL. This is a totally new world for all of college football. I mean,
yeah, and that's what he was talking about. How it was a learning opportunity for the players, and he even I think touched on taxes and how they work. So it's the educational pieces.
If you sign these big deals, you better know some tax stuff and tax breaks and stuff like that. You got to be able to get you some tax breaks in there because
more power to him, more money I've ever made.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I mean.
Kind of going back to the COVID issue, which Jonathan firsthand knowledge there, but I don't want to get too political, but he did mention how he wants to educate the players and how it's a personal choice. Yeah. And he kind of just left it at that, where he's going to talk to you about it. He's going to bring
there was some stuff that kind of got stirred up a little bit on some websites kind of put out some stuff about what he said.
Well, I think it was a lack of things that he said, not what he said, but the lack of what he said. And I think that's where I have a difference of opinion, because he did just kind of mention that it was a personal decision. He was going to bring in medical staff and just educate the players. And at that point, it was a personal decision.
Right.
And once we talk about Saban, we'll kind of go more in depth into the COVID thing and how he approached it. But
I mean, Saban had it last year originally they tested him during the Georgia game, if you didn't know, and they tested positive. Well, he was able to get a negative test right before the game, so he's able to coach in that. But during the Iron Bowl last year, he was not there, for COVID reasons. He sat out and he watched Steve Sarkisian coach the Crimson Tide there. But
that's interesting. With
it was definitely weird to see
with that, and then also Sarkisian, his offseason move. So it's
it's definitely different. It was different to see a different coach on the sideline coaching Alabama. It was, I don't know, it was weird.
Yeah,
but I guess coming up here in the next probably 10 years or so, we may see that. I mean,
10 years, okay.
I don't know. He may coach into his daggum 80s. I mean, he moves around just as good as anybody. So
yeah, for sure. And then kind of going to the Brian Harsin thing. Continuing on, after the COVID, he also talked about the explanations of the NIL and just kind of briefly touched on that and how he plans to approach it. Obviously a quarterback is going to earn more money than a center. Mm-hmm. We all know that. But also he talked about how X handled it and how Y handled it and how to navigate the situation itself, which goes back to the first piece where I elaborate on him, was with the education.
Now, let me ask you this, just because we're talking about the NIL stuff. Do you think this is going to cause a division in the locker room between people? I mean, your quarterback's making $800,000 and your backup daggum punter is making $10,000 from Joe Mama's diner right down the corner. I mean, does that create some sort of division in the locker room between players?
I don't think it's going to create a division at the team level. Now, it may be a personal thing, but it's not going to be one of those things where I believe it's going to cause issues for the team.
Yeah.
Now, I think there may be some personal resentment, maybe, but I can't say that's going to cause team issues.
Now let me add on to that too.
Let me pause. I hate to use the word resentment there. I don't think it's resentment, but just maybe jealousy.
Yeah, I mean, I could see. I mean,
obviously,
you're making $800,000, and I'm sitting back here making $10,000, getting free cheeseburgers from the diner.
Yeah,
I mean, Now let me just touch on this too. Do you think that, with players making this kind of money, do you think there may be some times where it's like the sponsor is like, hey, I want you to do this during the game? At what point does the sponsorship, like, all right, we're going to put a hold on that. I don't want you, the coach comes in and says, I don't want you, throwing up so-and-so hand sign, which, who knows? I mean, at what point does a sponsor put the brakes on during a game, say, I'm going to stay out of it? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. That's one of those things I think we could almost make a whole episode on itself when discussing NIL. But I don't believe that it's going to be that level of in-depth, because if you think about what NIL stands for, it's name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
So none of those things really coincide with on-field performance, but how you get the contracts or get the sponsors is going to be achieved through your performance on the field or there's name recognition.
Right. I got you.
Staying with Harsin, the tradition, he talked about how Tiger Walk and how he experienced it with Arkansas State back in 2013, I believe, how he experienced it from the side of coming in as the opposing team, and how he can't wait to see it as the as Auburn Tigers head coach. I'm really excited for that. And he just
off the rip, do you think he's doing just the stuff that he said and has mentioned? Do you think he's doing a better job so far than what Malzahn may have had?
So a lot of things I kept hearing about Harsin coming in was going to be he was stoic and kind of stonewalled, and that seemed to be the message across the board. But when he opened up at Media Day, I kind of liked his personality. He did kind of put on a hard face, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Kind of like Saban plays his cards close to his chest. I appreciate those things, and I personally like him and his discussion about culture, tradition, and his expectations and building the program, and how he kind of elaborated on saying the past is the past. And he didn't really look into Gus Malzahn and his tenure. Yeah. And we're just going to move forward.
I mean, I think it's a totally different, scheme as far as offensive wise. I think he's going to, maybe change it up a little bit. I mean, you got to change it up. I mean, pass and attack now is crucial. You've got to be able to score quickly in today's game. The way that the game has changed from just say 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, just think 10 years ago, it's ground and pound, run the clock out. Let's get out of here with a 10-7 win, and we're happy with it. Now it's you got to beat your opponent by 28 points, or its fan base just ain't happy.
Well, you got to get the quality wins too.
Yes, that's true. I mean, you got.
There's a lot of different facets that come into play now with the BCS being gone, and the human factor kind of being the total factor for who gets in the playoffs.
To me personally, I would like to see the BCS be a part of it still, and just take the top 4 from the BCS and put them in, at least right now until the playoff expands. But to add a computer element into it and take more like bias out, I guess is the proper term.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
No. Kind of wrapping up with my thoughts on Harsin himself, and he kind of just talked about his expectations. And the one thing I'm going to have to focus on what he said here, but it's like the personal best. So he wants you to show up, care, and repeat every single day. And that's kind of what he just said. Like, just do this every single day to the best of your ability. That is the standard. Right. So that's the standard of Auburn football from here moving forward. Show up, care, and repeat. He made it kind of simple. That's his cultural expectations. That's the culture he's bringing in. He doesn't care what Gus did. He's ready to move on and just go forward. He got real serious. He's talked about the discipline of the team, self-regulation, and, you want to build good habits as a player and as a person. That's going back to the education of your players. Right. He talked about toughness, physical and mental.
Gotcha.
You're not surviving, you're thriving.
Right.
So it's just kind of
he's instilling that. I mean,
from the get go,
day one, he's on it.
That's what I really liked. He said, "We're done with Gus. We're moving on."
Right.
He didn't say that. I'm quoting, but or I'm paraphrasing. Yeah. And then the conviction to believe in yourself.
Yeah, I mean, to me, as a new coach, you have to come in. You have to come in and install your philosophy, your thoughts in these kids, because these kids are still used to your previous coach, and they're still kind of wishy washy on a new face coming in, telling them what to do and how to do it. So to me, I mean, you got to get these guys on board on your train.
Yeah. And another thing he kind of touched on was a no positive COVID test for the last 5 months, which
that's pretty solid.
For how they kind of handled his COVID question and how they, like we talked about, how he didn't answer it the way they wanted. I feel pretty confident that there's been no positives, and it's a 60% vaccination rate.
That's pretty solid. Pretty good. Okay. Are you? That's pretty much wrapped it up there.
Yeah. For the Harsin, I could talk about Bo Nix and Owen Papo, but I don't think it's that big of a deal.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah, we can wrap back around.
Going to Alabama, Nick Saban came up on day 3, and just like he said earlier, he keeps his cards close, to his chest. Like he has his answers are planned to a T. I mean, everything that he said was just close to the vest, other than the fact that he's kind of mentioned some newer stuff with their strength and conditioning coach that they brought in last year. They said the team is really embracing into that. They've kind of brought in a scientific kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
It's crazy some of the stuff that I've seen about what they're doing.
Now, I can't say I've seen it, but when I was doing my research for this, I kind of put down one of the things I like about Nick Saban, which is a lot, but I'll just kind of pop on and say adaptability. So you're talking about the new technology to see daily progress. Mm-hmm. So when you're training, you're seeing progress over, a few weeks, a few months, or even the season.
Well,
but they're talking about
one thing they're doing that I saw every day. They come in to the weight room, they sign in, and from there the computer actually tracks your workout, how you do, how you perform, and how you are doing on a day-to-day basis. As you work in their program, and from there they have a formula that they go over for hours, talking about what they can do to improve you, make you stronger, faster, less injury prone, stuff like that. I mean, it's crazy some of the stuff that they come in and done, especially in year 2 after Scott Cochran went off to Georgia. There he was there for a while, and I always liked the fact that for the fourth quarter he's standing there the whole time, just 4 fingers up. I don't know why he was just in it, man. He had the enthusiasm, which was crazy. But coming in with the new coach or with the new strength and conditioning, they've completely changed the game.
Well, he also kind of talked about transitioning from a strength-based kind of a powerlifting approach to more of an explosive training style, and how it also decreased, or what they've seen as a decreased injury rate by I think 50%.
Yeah, I think it was like bruised tissue or soft tissue issues or something.
That's over my head, but that kind of like touches on the adaptability of Nick Saban.
Yeah, I mean he's changing the game up. And another thing that he mentioned too while he was there was how Lane Kiffin modernized the offense while he was there, and how he doesn't get the credit that he really deserves. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, before then, like I said a few minutes ago, Nick Saban was grind and pound, run the clock out, and let's get out of here. But now, I mean, he is adapted the same way that like Bear Bryant adapted when he was coaching Alabama way back when, swapping to the wishbone. Now Nick Saban's adopted this modern spread style offense, and I mean, when you have the best players, in the country to come run it, I mean, it's gonna look good.
It's gonna look good almost. I mean, always.
I mean, there's still, of course, there's hiccups here and there, but once those players get that playbook down and everything, it's over.
Yeah, and he kind of talked about the mutual respect and how for each of them, Lane Kiffin and for Nick Saban, and kind of how that he did modernize the college football offense, and that he did a fantastic job as offensive coordinator.
And he says that he just doesn't get the credit he deserves, which to me, I enjoyed Lane Kiffin's tenure. I mean, I really did. And I like Lane Kiffin just because of
he keeps things interesting.
He does. And
it's like Mike Leach.
We don't have Steve Spurrier anymore in the SEC to keep like the media days and stuff exciting. So just seeing him come in and talk and stuff, and it's just, I don't know, it's something interesting
for sure.
But one of the things he talked about too was the loss of the 6 players to the NFL in the first round. That how that hurts. And you got these next players have to step up and become the starters that these previous guys were. And I don't think that we're going to see too much of a drop off on offense once the players get in and get their experience, get their rhythm going, and get used to the game, to the speed of the game. I think they'll be, solid. Like every other year that Nick Saban's been there. I mean, it's like plug and play. So, I mean, we still have some offensive guys that are there from last year. Mechie comes to mind.
He was one of them
receiver.
He was
that hockey check during the NFL. I mean, during the SEC game. Oh God, that SEC championship. That was amazing. I loved it. I was like, oh
yeah. And Mechie, I didn't realize, but he's very charismatic when he was talking at media day. I really enjoyed his section more than I thought I would when he had his 10-minute interview or so. I was just like, man, this guy's actually really articulating well, and he's able to answer the questions, field the questions well, and divert if needed.
Right.
So when it got kind of into those NIL kind of questions and things like that. So he did a great job.
Yep.
And kind of touching with offense. I think it said 8 new guys on offense.
Something
and
like
that.
And
I don't know.
It's something like that, yeah.
So that's interesting, but as you know, with Saban, he can plug and play.
I mean, plug and play. And the guy, I mean, when Alabama gets up on these games, you'll see newer players get in there and get their, try and get some reps in. So next time that they're in, they feel comfortable enough to just continue and plug and play, like we said. One other thing he talked about too was the new offensive coordinator, Brian O'Brien. Excuse me.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien. Yeah,
Bill O'Brien, former NFL coach for the Texans. He how he's come in and he hasn't changed the playbook, but he's added to it, which kind of intrigues me a little bit because, I mean, I'm interested to see the plays that are added into this thing because this is, I mean, the offense is just, RPOs and everything else. I'm excited to see it.
It was kind of interesting because he touched on Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
He didn't really talk a lot during this portion of the presser. But he really kind of talked more about Lane Kiffin, which it makes sense because he's had that relationship with Lane Kiffin over the years. But it was just kind of interesting to me. He talked less about Bill O'Brien.
Yeah. And, just wrapping up, one of the last, things that he had mentioned was about the player from Tennessee, and I'm going to butcher his name because I know I can't say it. But
go ahead,
Henry To'o. I don't even know if I said that right. But how he's very instinctive, and just the overall with the leadership and stuff that he's bringing in. He was, I mean, at Tennessee, they had their eye on him when he was at Tennessee already, and Alabama did recruit him from high school, but he's there now, and I'm kind of interested to see how that works out as far as linebacker rotation because, I mean, they're pretty, deep at linebacker. I say deep, but they have some experience at linebacker already, starting experience. So, I'm kind of interested to see how he fits into the rotation and stuff of the defense. It's gonna be interesting, I think.
So this is Henry, right?
Henry.
Okay, no, I'm gonna leave it at Henry. I'm going to refer to this guy as Henry. I do want to wrap back around and mention a quote from Nick Saban before we kill it, but I do want to talk about Henry.
Yeah.
Henry.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
So is he the guy that was recruited to Tennessee through the McDonald's bag, the cash?
No, I don't think so. No,
okay.
No.
I was just curious how that worked out.
I think that was last year's guess.
Okay, that was my
He's been there for like a year, I think.
Okay.
So.
I was just curious how that worked out. So one thing that I really liked about Nick Saban and how he kind of wrapped things up was he said that consistency and performance usually define success.
Right.
And that just kind of.
Well, he's always putting out quotes like that, which is crazy.
Yeah, but
the
this
man
here,
is like daggum Confucius. He's just throwing out quotes all the time that are like hit home.
Yeah, but this one really hit home because of the consistency and the performance.
Yeah.
So he's been consistent here for over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
He has performed with the best. He has the best dynasty, one of the best dynasties in college football.
Yep.
Throughout the history. So it's interesting when I see it put into words of consistency and performance usually define success.
Yeah. The only reason I know this is because I went looking because I was arguing with somebody on Reddit about this. But in 30 years as a college football coach, with the Miami Dolphins tenure wrapped in there too, but in the 30 years, he has not had a losing season in 30 years, which, other than the Dolphins, I can't remember what his Dolphins record was, but it just in college though, 30 years without a losing season. I think the worst was 6-6 at Toledo or Michigan State or something, but it's just.
That speaks volumes.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
for
sure.
It's crazy. But I don't know. I mean, I'm excited for this year. I'm excited to see how it goes. I know. I mean, I'm gonna actually have my eye on Auburn too because I'm interested to see how this Brian Harsin does with the team that he has.
Yeah, and we're going to cover this when we talk about the preseason expectation, our preseason expectations going into the season. But
It's going to be another video coming soon
for sure. One thing I do want to mention is like with Harsin, just be aware. This is quick and easy. He is using Gus's players, besides the people or the players he picked up in the transfer portal.
Right.
I do want to emphasize that to fans.
I mean, this is year one.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to have to give him a couple of years, but we'll touch on that in a different video. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about with?
Yeah, I do want to mention the NIL deal that two of them actually that I saw. I know Nick Saban mentioned the Bryce Young's deal worth $800,000 for one single deal, and to me that's just freaking mind blowing because he has yet to even play as a starter in a game. Which I mean, more power to him. He's got a lot of hype surrounding him. He was, I mean, one of the best players coming out of high school. So I think that's going to be interesting. He's also has some other deals too that are in line that he just hasn't had time to look at yet to sign, which will put him over $1 million, and one of them being Cash App. So that's going to be interesting to see, you know, how this develops, you know, throughout the season. Of, you know, does he live up to expectations? What happens to the NIL deals if a player doesn't live up to expectations? I mean. He's our quarterback.
That's
so
a video. That could be a video on its own.
Yeah,
it's one of those things.
Clearly. And then also, too, I don't know if you saw it, but Bo Nix, it's kind of crazy. Bo Nix signed a NIL deal with Bojangles today.
I have not seen that. So
dude, I started laughing when I saw it. But that was another deal he signed. And he also has a deal with Milo's Sweet Tea. I don't know if it's sweet tea or just the restaurant.
Yeah, I would just assume, the same stuff. Yeah, but, I would assume Milo's.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested for the season. I'm interested to see how this NIL deal stuff does. It's fairly new, it is new in college football. Paying players is legal now.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm excited for it.
Now we're not dropping hay bales off over in Texas A&M as Bear Bryant did back in the day.
Hey, it worked.
Hey,
so
yeah, different time.
It worked out.
So I'm going to say, let us know what you think about the media day, and kind of we can discuss in the comments.
Yeah, just drop your comment below. Let us know what you guys thought about their SEC media days, which, you know, your thoughts on what the coaches said and how you feel about it and stuff like that. And also make sure you hit that like button, the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell because we're going to be constantly uploading videos during the season. We're going to be on Johnny on the spot with videos and try and get them out as fast as we can. Be looking forward to some more videos coming up to NIL deals, stuff like that, and our preseason expectations. So, yeah, make sure you drop your comments below, hit the like button, subscribe, and appreciate you guys for tuning in. And as always, roll Tide.
And War Eagle.